Hey, welcome back and Happy New Year. This will be our first update from the garage for 2021 and figured now would be a good time to get back into things and kind of show you what's going on. Now we have been working on some things, keeping ourselves busy. Something that has been capitalizing a lot of my time here recently is actually a secret project. I kind of alluded to it a few weeks ago, and I really can't go into great detail because I don't want to spoil the surprise for Kurt, but I can at least show you where we are with it, and again, let you kind of stew over what you think it's going to be. Let's just take a quick peek here at what it is. So a few weeks ago, I showed you this Soprano saxophone here, and I said we're going to be integrating this into Kurt's car, and I'm not going to be spoiling any surprises here by showing you what's going on. I just kind of figured I'd show you where we are, since this will be the last time you'll be able to see it before we actually get it mounted to the car. But again, this is just a soprano saxophone. It doesn't have any holes drilled in it, just a plain tube body. And since it is going into a Volkswagen, I did spend a day here, and I made up this little fancy brace here. The original one was just a plain, no nonsense type of brace, and I thought we would step it up a little bit. So using just a 1/8 inch thick piece of sheet brass, I went ahead and cut out the VW logo, and really it's kind of slick. Once this is mounted in the car, there'll be no doubt that it belongs in there. Now, getting to this point took a lot longer than I was expecting, which is typical when you're adding these custom elements. One of the first things I had to do before I could even worry about building this brace is I had to rebuild this entire saxophone. It is brand new, but it's just an import piece that really wasn't put together very well, and we had to unsolder basically every component from it to be able to get things lined up, so we knew that this would actually sit correctly and look nice. So you can actually see that I haven't finished all the cleanup work here. There's still lots of stuff that has to happen. We are not too concerned with that because once I get this finished up and I get everything modified, I am going to be sending it out, and we're going to have the bell and the body custom engraved, specific to Kurt. And then after that, it's going to go off and be silver plated, and should look really, really fancy when it's done. But for now, I figured I'd show you one last time what it is we're dealing with here. And the next time you see it probably won't be till the summer, once we actually have it mounted in the car. Now, I may be able to show you when it gets back from the silver plater, if I can just hide the modifications that were done to it. So we'll see what that looks like once it comes back. But that's what we've been working on. This little brace, I've done this type of work before in a previous life. I used to do stuff like this all the time. But not having access to all the tools I used to have, I kind of had to work with a makeshift setup here. Just to kind of give you an idea of what it took. I just had this scrap chunk of wood, and you see I've got a little notch cut in the end. And what that is it created kind of a little jeweler's vise here. You just kind of hang this off the edge of a bench, and then you can lay your material on there. This obviously would be clamped to your work surface. And then using like this little jeweler's saw, again, left over from my previous career, we went through and hand cut all of these openings in this logo here. And then with a set of these little files here, I was able to go through and kind of clean everything up, and then we got through and we sanded up everything, and it's not quite polished yet. We'll get there, but that's just where we left off. But that's kind of the stuff that it took to get this going. Something else that kind of kept me busy here is actually this neck. Now this is a soprano saxophone, and the neck actually used to stick up at a real severe angle here. In fact, here's a photo of what it looked like before I started. And I wanted this to, at least from a distance, kind of look more similar to a traditional looking saxophone, so we had to bend this around. And that was, again, I don't have access to the tooling that I used to have access to, so what we ended up doing is just kind of using a makeshift bending jig. I filled this thing full of lead as a bending agent, and I was able to get it bent off to the right angle. And now, again, all we have to do is kind of finish the cleanup work and, you know, make it look a little nicer. And then once it's polished, it should look great. So that's just one of the things that's kind of been keeping me occupied here. And, you know, at least you kind of have a sense of where we're going. You know, again, I'm not going to tell you what's going on until it's actually finished, but, you know, you can see what's going into it. You know, that brace looks pretty simple, but I think I have about 6 hours of labor into it. And again, if I would have had all the tools and all the materials I used to have access to, it would have been significantly less, but you know, you work with what you got. Some other things we've been working on here, I've actually been collecting just more parts and more tools to help with some future projects here. In fact, one thing I just picked up here is actually an engine stand specific to the Volkswagen motor. When I rebuilt the engine on my dune buggy, you know, that is Volkswagen motor, I just used my standard engine stand, and it was okay, but it was a little cumbersome. And so I've been kind of keeping my eye open for a Volkswagen specific stand, and one popped up on Craigslist, and it was dirt cheap, and I only had to drive an hour to go pick it up, but it was well worth it, I hope. I have the thing home. In fact, here it is right here. You know, it's just one of these, again, one of these import models. You know, pretty simple, pretty basic. I'm hoping that it's better than it looks. You know, we'll find out once we get the engine mounted. But I'm really only a few weeks away from actually rebuilding the motor for this car, so I want to make sure I've kind of got things lined up and ready to go. So, you know, stupid simple things like that, you know, again, that was 2 hours out of my day just to run and pick that up. You know, but it saved me over $100, so I figured, you know, sometimes it's worth that. You know, beyond that, it's just, again, it's been a lot of little things. I am going to focus probably for the next, I probably have another day's worth of work customizing the saxophone. Once I've got that finished up and ready to mount in the car, then I can send it off to get the plating done. And so I want to get that done as soon as possible, because I imagine it's going to take my engraver a few days to get that done, and then we got to get it polished up and sent off for plating. And I want to get that ball rolling so I don't have to sit around and wait for it. You know, there's still a lot of things I am waiting on, back-ordered items and such, and shipping over the holidays was kind of a nightmare. I think a lot of you probably experienced that. So I'm, you know, waiting on a few more things to come in, but I think as soon as I get this done, I'm going to go ahead and get going on the front clip again. I did get as far as cutting it apart and just haven't had a chance to touch it since then. But that'll be our next project. In fact, you can kind of, you know, probably looks exactly like it did the last time I showed you the front of this car. Now, I have been thinking about what I'm going to be doing here. I think I've got a pretty good idea on the process. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that. That'll probably be something we finish up early next week. And then really, it's just a matter of getting the rest of the rust fixed up on this car. I really want to get things put back together and make sure I've got everything figured out as far as, you know, running wiring, getting the speakers mounted, all the interior customizations we have to do. But before I spend a whole lot of time on that, I want to make sure I've got a good solid foundation. So we'll get that front clip finished up next week, and then we'll move around to some of the other rust areas in the car. And really, once we have a good solid foundation, we'll go ahead and get the paint stripped off, so then I can get the body prepped and primed, and then I'll feel better about moving ahead with some of the other customization stuff. So that's kind of where we are. You know, I imagine you probably were expecting a lot more, but you know, with the holidays being around, it was just kind of a busy time, and I really wanted to get some of these other smaller secretive projects out of the way, just so I don't have to be rushing those at the end, and hoping to get things back in time. Well, that's it. It's really all I know right now. Again, not a lot to share because there's a lot of things that I just can't share at this time. But in a few weeks, in a few months, for sure by the summer, you'll be able to see everything that we've done. But for now, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, I'll see you around. Hey, you know what? Before you go, there is one more thing. And that is, right before Christmas, we had a mini blizzard here in Minnesota. And road conditions were pretty sketchy. A lot of spin outs, and things were pretty slippery, and wind was blowing really, really, really badly. And we thought, instead of just sitting around watching the snow out the window, that we would get in the old Chevy and take that out and do some donuts. So if you stuck around this long, enjoy, because here's some of the fun that we had. I'll see ya.